Welcome back to our channel, everyone. If you haven't heard the thrilling conclusion of He Fell Into Her World, now she'll destroy anyone who dares take him away, then buckle up. You're in for a jaw-dropping finale. Picture a daring escape, with Queen Velria and Ronan standing side by side. Mo Ishhayin is a stealth cruiser tries one last time to bury the truth. They must risk everything to broadcast the incriminating data, exposing the corrupt scheme that nearly tore two worlds apart. Will their bravery be enough to shatter centuries of suspicion and unite Okora with the Orion Federation? You'll have to listen to the full story to find out the explosive ending. If you enjoyed this sneak peek, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more incredible tales just like this. We've got plenty more sci-fi adventures and riveting romances lined up to keep you on the edge of your seat. And don't forget to comment below. Tell us your thoughts, theories, and where you're tuning in from. We love hearing your feedback. Ronan Pierce had never experienced a descent as turbulent or heart-stopping as the one that now threatened to claim his life. The diplomatic vessel Endurance, a modest star cruiser stamped with the proud crest of the Orion Federation, was enveloped in alarms and chaos. Panels flickered, sparks flew, and overhead lights pulsed ominously, suggesting that the unthinkable was drawing near. Blood trickled down Ronan's forehead, a stark reminder of how close he was to losing control of the vessel altogether. In desperation, he attempted a last-minute broadcast to anyone listening. "Mayday, this is Envoy Ronan Pierce aboard the Endurance. We've sustained severe damage and are going down on planet Okora." That was all he managed to say before a violent jolt cut off his transmission. Gritting his teeth, he glanced through the cockpit's view screen at the swirls of purple atmosphere dominating the horizon. Okora loomed ominously below, its surface a tapestry of crimson forests and jagged mountain ridges. Diplomatic missions were never guaranteed to be safe, but this was a disaster. Ronan knew Okora only by reputation, a world of warrior clans, each fiercely loyal to their own traditions, their proud monarchy, and a code of honor that outsiders often misunderstood. Negotiations between the Okorans and the Orion Federation had teetered on a razor's edge for months, and he had been dispatched in the hope of bridging the final gap that separated alliance from conflict. Yet now sabotage, or something equally malevolent, had sent him plunging out of orbit, leaving him at the mercy of this warrior planet. A blast of heat rippled through the hull as the Endurance tore through Okora's atmosphere, its shielding close to failure. Alarms blared in a shrill crescendo that threatened to deafen him. Every joint and rivet in the ship seemed on the verge of coming apart. With sweat dripping into his eyes, Ronan wrestled with the controls, doing everything in his power to manage a landing that wouldn't reduce him to a crater of twisted metal. The hull was down to minimal integrity when the ground began to rush up with terrifying speed. A final deafening crash shook him from head to toe as the Endurance impacted Okoran soil. He felt metal buckle, panels explode in a shower of sparks, and for a fleeting moment, the entire world blurred into dizzying pain. When Ronan regained partial awareness, acrid smoke filled his nostrils and stung his eyes. The engine's dying whine mixed with the hiss of escaping coolant. Head pounding, he tried to free himself from the harness. However, every muscle screamed in protest. His vision flickered, giving him disorienting glimpses of the cockpit's shattered screens and twisted framework. Outside, the forest crackled where broken tree trunks and scattered debris still smoldered. Then darkness edged back into his vision, and he succumbed to exhaustion, unsure if he would ever see another dawn. Unbeknownst to him, the crash had not gone unnoticed. Hidden among crimson undergrowth and towering trees, scouts from the nearest Okoran hunting party scanned the skies. Their sensitive, tufted ears picked up the whine of the ship's descent long before the impact. Among them stood the tall and fearsome Queen Velria, her silver-gray fur rippling in the breeze. An imposing figure at nearly 7 feet, Velria was no ordinary monarch. She was the final arbiter of Okoran tradition. With silent hand signals, she commanded her hunting party forward, determination etched on her sharp features. If there was a survivor in this battered vessel, it was hers to claim. As Queen Velria approached the crash site, her ears flattened slightly at the reek of burning metal and scorched earth. She saw the path of devastation the fallen ship had carved through the forest. Trees snapped in half and ground churned into deep ruts. The Okorans behind her, sturdy warriors, each armed with a blend of traditional blades and advanced energy rifles, spread out forming a perimeter. In Okoran culture, intruders could be dangerous, but if there was a chance they had captured a valuable prisoner or discovered advanced technology, the queen wanted it in her control. The battered hull of the Endurance hissed ominously, vents still spewing plumes of white steam. Velria paused by a mangled wing to run a hand over the singed metal, her claws grazing it. Something about the Orion Federation's attempts at diplomacy left her cautious. She was aware that many on Okora preferred isolation, wary of humans and their advanced alliances. Yet a small faction believed forging ties could ensure mutual prosperity and deter potential invasions by rival worlds like the Droth Collective. Either way, few Okorans appreciated unannounced landings, even if they were accidental. Queen Velria called out one of her trusted guards, a massive warrior named Rylus. He had the russet coat and muscular build common to Okora's elite hunting class. There's movement in what appears to be the cockpit. Velria's nostrils flared. Stay back unless I command otherwise. This one is mine to claim, she declared. The ancient law was clear. Any being or beast discovered alive on one's hunting grounds was the rightful property of that land's monarch or clan leader, provided it did not belong to a recognized ally. With cautious steps, she climbed onto a twisted piece of metal plating that led to the cockpit's shattered entrance. The cockpit was a claustrophobic ruin of glass shards, dangling wires, and sparking consoles. Velria spotted the lone occupant, a dark-haired human male pinned beneath part of a broken control panel. Blood matted his hair, and his breathing was shallow but steady. His uniform bore the insignia of the Orion Federation's diplomatic corps. A solitary blink from him told her he was at least semi-conscious, but unable to move or speak. Rylus and another guard stepped in, eyes locked on Velria for instructions. "Do we finish him?" Rylus asked, his voice filled with a mixture of reluctance and warrior practicality. Okorans held a certain respect for lethal mercy, especially when a stranger seemed too close to death. But Velria had made her decision. "No," she replied, steel in her voice. "He landed in my territory. He is my claim. Set him free from this wreckage, but be gentle." Though the request was unusual, her personal code of honor demanded she seize every advantage. A living envoy from the Orion Federation might hold strategic information, even if the Alliance's offer of peace was suspect. These early moments established the raw power and survivalist mindset of the Okoran culture, while showcasing the precarious nature of Ronan's situation. The Queen's decision to spare the life of a trespassing outsider set the stage for the unfolding drama. The audience understood that if Velria had chosen differently, there would be no second chances on Okora. At the same time, it hinted that diplomacy, even here, might find a foothold under the most dangerous circumstances. While two guards lifted debris off Ronan, Velria herself leaned in to brush away shards of glass. Something in his barely focused eyes conveyed an innocence, at odds with the typical arrogance she expected from Federation officials. This piqued her curiosity more than she cared to admit. She gave a curt nod of approval when the guards carefully hoisted him into their arms. "Bring him to my chambers. Summon Alondra, the royal healer," Velria commanded. The gathering dusk painted the battered ship in ghostly silhouette. Despite the day's bloodless victory, Velria sensed that bringing an off-world envoy into her personal life would have consequences. Her war council was already divided on the matter of deeper alliance ties. This human and his unplanned arrival would undoubtedly stir the pot further. With the unconscious human in tow, Velria and her hunting party began their return to the royal compound. Around them, the shadows of Okora's crimson forest stretched long in the dying sunlight. Unseen creatures chirped and growled, marking the shift from day's tranquility to night's hidden perils. The queen set her jaw, her mind already racing through the complexities that awaited. She would nurse this human back to consciousness, learn what he knew, and see if he might prove useful or dangerous. In Okoran eyes, if someone threatened the queen's claim, they would face the fangs of her power. Beyond the immense, vine-laden gates that marked the entry to the royal compound, marble arches and carved pillars testified to Okora's centuries-old heritage. Torches lined the inner courtyard, flickering to life as dusk deepened. Inside, the stone corridors displayed ornate tapestries depicting ancient battles and legendary hunts. Though technologically advanced in many respects, the Okorans took great pride in preserving physical artifacts that told their epic history. Queen Velria's private quarters were both a sanctuary and a fortress. Constructed of polished stone and reinforced with stealth architecture, the rooms were set high within a spired tower. Tonight, she barely noticed the usual sense of incense and medicinal herbs. Her focus lay squarely on the battered man Rylus carried up the winding steps. The royal healer, Alondra, stood by a plush, fur-covered bed, swiftly directing the guards to place the unconscious human upon it. Ronan's eyes fluttered as Alondra applied a sweet-smelling salve to the cuts on his face. While Velria observed from a few paces away, the healer carefully checked vitals. She glanced at the queen and gave a slight nod of reassurance. "He'll live, but I need to treat him properly," Alondra murmured, mixing more ointment. The queen allowed it, arms crossed, tail twitching in an uncharacteristic display of concern. Ronan stirred, awareness flickering back for a few seconds. He mumbled something inaudible and tried to lift a hand, but the pain forced him back under. Alondra coaxed him into a deeper slumber, ensuring his body could recover at least the bare minimum to stabilize. The quiet was broken when a tall Okoran male with jet-black fur and keen amber eyes stormed in, ignoring the customary etiquette of waiting. It was Councillor Crom, a member of Velria's High Council and leader of the faction most wary of humans. A longtime agitator for isolation, Crom's presence never boded well. "My queen," he said, voice dripping with barely concealed contempt. "I have been informed of your new guest." Velria did not budge from her position. "Counselor, your intelligence is timely as usual." Crom's nostrils flared. "This is a direct violation of established protocols regarding off-worlders, especially from the Orion Federation. Their envoy, if that's who he truly is, had no right to land in forbidden territory. I'm certain the Council will expect answers." Though her words emerged calm and measured, Velria's tail flicked with rising agitation. "He crashed," she countered. "The Federation did not request my permission because, presumably, they had none. This situation is not of our choosing, but it will be resolved under Okoran law. You forget, Counselor, I am the one who decides what is permissible within my domain." The friction between Velria and Crom laid bare the ideological battle shaping up. While some Okorans saw potential in an alliance with the Orion Federation, others believed it would erode their heritage. The arrival of a human envoy, especially one claiming to be on a peaceful mission, was the perfect accelerant to existing suspicions. This tension magnified the stakes for Velria's every decision, making even the act of healing Ronan a politically explosive move. Crom narrowed his eyes, ignoring Alondra's disapproving glance. "Very well, my queen. I will convey your position to the rest of the council. But mark my words, any harm that befalls Okora in the wake of your decision will weigh on your reign." With that, he bowed stiffly and left, his departure as abrupt as his entrance. When he was gone, Velria let out a slow, controlled breath. She turned her attention back to Ronan, whose breathing now seemed steadier. A swirl of thoughts troubled her. Was he truly a diplomat or a spy sent to undermine Okora's defenses? Could she glean invaluable information from him? Or would his presence only further rift the council? For better or worse, she had claimed him in the forest. The fate of that claim, and perhaps the entire planet, hung in the balance. Morning light crept through intricate stone lattice windows, illuminating the bed where Ronan lay. He awoke to a world of strange scents and muffled pains. Disorientation painted the edges of his thoughts. His ribs hurt, his arms felt leaden, and his head throbbed fiercely. Despite the dull ache, he noticed the bed under him was impossibly soft, layers of plush furs that seemed at odds with the harsh environment he had witnessed during his crash. A sudden rustle drew his gaze. Standing near the window with the regal bearing of someone used to being obeyed was an imposing female figure. Silver-gray fur lined her forearms and shoulders, and she wore a carefully fashioned Okoran garb of dark leather and metallic accents, revealing a balance between ceremonial tradition and practical defense. Ronan recalled glimpses of her from his fading consciousness the night before. She had spoken to him or about him, though the details were fuzzy. "You're awake," she said in a resonant voice, stepping forward. "I am Queen Velria of Okora." Her golden eyes held a predatory confidence, and yet there was no immediate hostility in her posture. Ronan swallowed, his mouth dry. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain pulled him back against the bed. "I'm Ronan Pierce," he managed, clearing his throat. "Envoy of the Orion Federation, or at least I was." She nodded. "Yes. We found your vessel, what the What's left of it? You crashed in my hunting grounds. By our laws, that makes you my property. She let the last word hang in the air, watching how he reacted. Blinking in disbelief, he pressed a hand to his bandaged temple. Your property, we, humans, don't exactly see sentient beings as anyone's property. Her lips curled slightly, not quite a smile. You are not on your worlds, human. You are on Okora, and we abide by Okoran laws. Stepping closer, she looked him over, as though assessing the condition of livestock or a prized war beast. You seem well enough to speak. Good. Then tell me how it is you came to land here with no warning, no diplomatic clearance. My sources indicate that your Federation envoy was scheduled to arrive next week, and certainly not in a near-ruined craft. Ronan recalled the frantic moments aboard the Endurance, the unexpected sensor readings in the sudden blast that crippled his ship. My vessel was attacked, he said, voice hitching. I couldn't identify who fired on us. They jammed our communications until we were close to your planet. We lost all stability, and the ship entered freefall. Velia studied him. There was neither disbelief nor acceptance on her face, merely a calculating tension. Attacked by whom? Your own Federation or some outside force? I wish I knew, he admitted, pushing down a lingering sense of betrayal. Before we went down, we picked up energy signatures consistent with Alliance weaponry. But we've also been dealing with covert arms dealers on the frontier. Someone clearly wanted me dead. Zoajan, done. But I don't know why. My mission was diplomatic, warning your people of potential infiltration by a rival power, the Draith Collective. A flicker of surprise touched her features. She regarded him for another moment before turning away. If your story has truth, she said, tail flicking behind her, it's more than a personal matter. It might mean Okora stands on the edge of war. I already face dissent within my council. Some wish to remain isolated. Others hope for an alliance. And now we have you, an alleged envoy who arrived with no notice and a suspicious crash. Ronan carefully shifted his weight, fighting a new wave of dizziness. My queen, if I could access my ship's data logs. She held up a hand, silencing him. There will be time for that. For now, rest. But do not be deceived into thinking you have freedom here. You belong to me until I see fit otherwise. Outside the Queen's chambers, Counselor Crom marched swiftly down the corridor, robes billowing in his wake. Several other Okorans followed, all part of his block within the War Council. They had gathered in a side hall adorned with tapestries of old conquests, none of which featured alliances with offworlders. With hushed but urgent tones, the group strategized their next move. Crom's voice rumbled low and intense. The Queen's fascination with this human weakens her. We suspect he's a spy who aims to undermine our sovereignty. My allies, we must be prepared to invoke the right of challenge. The right of challenge, known colloquially as Karaktar, was an ancient trial by combat that allowed any high-ranking official to contest the monarch's decisions if they were believed to endanger the planet. It was a drastic measure, rarely invoked, but it remained a powerful threat. What if he genuinely has intelligence that might protect Okora from an invasion? Asked one counselor, a female with russet fur and carefully styled braids. She appeared torn, balancing respect for tradition with the lure of strategic alliances. Crom's jaw tightened. If this so-called envoy possessed such knowledge, why did he not provide it through proper channels? Why arrive in stealth and near ruin? Mark my words, the Queen's trust is misplaced. This planet has no need for Federation meddling. He paused, letting his gaze sweep the assembly. If Velia won't see reason, we may have to force her hand, for the good of Okora. Meanwhile, in the Queen's quarters, Ronan gingerly tested his legs, finding them unsteady but functional. Alondra had given him an herbal concoction that dulled his pain and accelerated healing. He stumbled to a tall window, drawn by the vista of crimson-tinged treetops. Okora's second sun had just risen, bathing the forest in a haunting glow. The scene was both alien and strangely captivating, a stark reminder that he stood on a world where everything, culture, laws, environment, was drastically different from his own. Velia entered, accompanied by Rylus. I see you're up. She motioned for him to sit on a nearby chair, a sturdy piece carved from Okoran blackwood. This is Rylus, captain of my personal guard. He'll be escorting us to the War Council shortly, where I expect you to speak. Ronan's brows knitted. Speak? About what? She flicked her tail. Your mission, the threat you claim to have discovered, and the reason you ended up in our territory. The Council demands answers, and if you fail to convince them, I won't be able to protect you. And if I succeed? He asked, voice catching. Her gaze hardened. Then you might still remain under my claim, but you'll at least have a chance to prove you're not a threat. Crom is rallying his supporters. They see your presence as a sign of betrayal, me siding with offworlders. This is your opportunity to show them otherwise. The looming confrontation with the War Council showcased how high the stakes had grown. Velria's defense of Ronan was more than a personal act. It risked the stability of her rule. Meanwhile, Ronan's every word would be scrutinized by traditionalists eager to find him guilty of treachery. The dramatic tension hinged on whether they could discover a shared interest that transcended suspicion, or whether the entire negotiation would implode under the weight of Okoran tradition. Despite the ache still coursing through his body, Ronan forced himself upright. This was his shot to salvage the mission, and maybe even the precarious peace between two worlds. With a measured breath, he walked beside Velria and Rylus, steeling himself for the challenge that awaited in the Grand Hall. The War Council convened in a circular chamber that combined the grandeur of Okoran heritage with subtle, advanced technology. Elegant stone carvings rose along the walls, depicting famous battles and coronations. At the same time, discreetly placed data terminals glowed on elaborate wooden stands. Giant overhead skylights let in beams of morning sun, creating swirling patterns on the polished floor. 7 high-backed seats formed an arc, with the center seat reserved for Queen Velria. Ronan and Velria entered to a palpable wave of tension. Crom, seated to Velria's left, fixed the human envoy with a baleful stare. The other counselors varied in their dispositions. Some looked curious, others apprehensive, and a few clearly shared Crom's hostility. Rylus positioned himself at Ronan's flank, a silent reminder that trouble was just a misstep away. Once Velria took her seat, she addressed the council without preamble, her voice ringing with regal authority. Respected counselors, I present Ronan Pierce of the Orion Federation, whose ship crashed on our soil. He brings word of a looming danger that may concern us all. Let him speak, and let us judge the truth of his words. Crom's tail lashed, but he said, mumbling, eyes glittering with malice. Another counselor, a middle-aged male with silver-streaked fur, leaned forward. We have heard conflicting accounts. Some say you were shot down by your own forces. Others whisper of infiltration by off-world entities. Explain yourself, human. Ronan inclined his head in respect. Thank you for hearing me. My mission was sanctioned at the highest levels, so I believed, to warn Okora about illicit arms deals linked to the Droth Collective. There have been rumors, and now some evidence, that certain Orion Federation officials are double-dealing, selling advanced weaponry to Droth warlords who might attack Okora under false pretenses. The Federation at large is not complicit, but rogue elements within it might be profiting from inciting regional conflict. He paused, aware that every ear in the chamber was attuned to him. My ship was ambushed as we entered Okoran space, presumably to silence me. I don't know the exact conspirators' identities yet, but there's enough data in the Endurance's memory core to confirm the energy signatures that downed us were Federation design. This is not a sanctioned act. It's sabotage intended to throw suspicion on legitimate diplomacy. A ripple of alarmed murmurs spread among the counselors. Crom sneered, still unyielding. That's quite the tale. Convenient that your so-called data is inaccessible in a crashed ship. You ask us to believe your Federation is partly corrupt, yet also claim you're here to help us? I wonder if this is a performance meant to manipulate us into forging alliances that benefit the Federation more than Okora. Velria observed the exchange carefully. Ronan had done his part in giving the broad strokes of the crisis, but she knew Crom would seize on any uncertainty. We must retrieve the Endurance's memory core. Then we will see if Ronan speaks truth, she declared, seeking a middle ground. Crom rose to his feet, long robe sweeping around him. Your Majesty, I question your judgment. This human was found in your personal chambers, tended by your own hand. By ancient law, I invoke the right of challenge. Let the blood of Kuraktar determine if your claim on him stands, or if your union with an off-worlder threatens Okora's future. A gasp fluttered through the chamber. Ronan sensed the immediate shift. No longer were they calmly discussing data or conspiracies. Now, honor demanded a fight to confirm Velria's authority. He looked at Velria, alarm spiking in his veins. She merely kept her face impassive, though her eyes burned. I accept your challenge, Crom. At sundown, we shall let Okoran tradition decide the fate of my claim in this human. The announcement spread like wildfire through the palace and across Okora's capital city. The right of challenge was an archaic, brutal practice, used only when a counselor believed the monarch's actions endangered the planet's destiny. Victory cemented the monarch's position, while defeat could lead to abdication, or worse. For Velria, who had never lost a formal challenge, this confrontation felt deeply personal. Not only did it threaten her throne, but it also held Ronan's fate in the balance. In a secluded training hall deep within the palace, Velria ran through a series of exercises designed to hone her combat reflexes. Rylus observed, arms folded. While she executed fluid strikes with a curved blade, he spoke in measured tones. Crom is no novice. He's studied your techniques. He'll exploit any prior injuries or predictable maneuvers. Velria paused, panting lightly before continuing. I know. This is not a sparring match. It will be to the death if he pushes it that far. That's what Kuraktar demands when the monarchy itself is on trial. She launched into a series of aerial spins, the blade humming with each swift strike. Meanwhile, Ronan hovered near the hall's entrance, watching silently. He couldn't shake the feeling of responsibility for this crisis. If he had managed to land somewhere else, if he had found a safer approach, maybe Velria wouldn't be embroiled in a lethal duel. He clenched his fists, recalling the Federation training that taught him basic self-defense, but not how to handle alien ceremonial combat. Nevertheless, he approached, hesitant. Queen Velria, he said, voice tentative, I want to help. You saved my life, and now Crom is using my presence as an excuse to force you into a challenge. Is there any way I can even the odds? Velria lowered her blade, turning those piercing golden eyes on him. You do not question the right of challenge, Ronan. This is our tradition, older than the memory of Starflight. If I refuse to fight, I surrender my claim over you and effectively abdicate. He swallowed hard. I understand that, but maybe we could treat your injuries or refine your technique or something. He recalled Federation medical data on Okoran physiology, their nerve clusters, their muscle patterns, all aspects he had studied for diplomacy. I noticed you favor your left side slightly. Is there an old wound? A flicker of surprise crossed her face. An arrow wound from before I became queen, healed but occasionally stiff. Then her gaze hardened. Crom knows it well. Ronan stepped closer. Let me see if my knowledge of Federation combat medicine can help. Even minimal therapy could reduce the weakness. That might give you the edge. Here, the stakes pivot from mere survival to deeper loyalty. Ronan volunteers to help, not out of political maneuvering, but because he feels indebted to Velria and finds himself bound by a sense of moral solidarity. This camaraderie signals a bond forming between them that surpasses transactional motives, emphasizing how forging genuine connections can upend the status quo. Velria hesitated, pride and trust warring in her expression. Finally, she nodded. Very well. She handed the blades to Rylus and turned, exposing her upper back. Carefully, Ronan placed his hands over her thick fur, finding the exact spot where the old injury knotted the muscles. He pressed gently, eliciting a wince from the queen. Over the next hour, he guided Velria through micro-exercises designed to strengthen the area around the injury, alleviating tension. Though visibly skeptical at first, Rylus soon recognized improvement. By the time Ronan finished, Velria rolled her shoulder experimentally, discovering an ease of movement she hadn't felt in years. You truly know your art, she conceded, giving him a rare, approving glance. As evening approached, the hush that descended over the palace grounds was almost palpable. Torches lit the paths leading to the ancient arena, an immense circular structure carved into the side of a rocky cliff. Okorans from every walk of life flocked to witness the rite of challenge, where swords and cunning would decide fate. Velria prepared in dignified silence, donning light ceremonial armor that still allowed her maximal flexibility. Ronan stood nearby, heart pounding in apprehension. He couldn't shake the sense that his life was bound up in the outcome. Sunset bathed the arena in a deep orange glow, as if the very sky participated in the gravity of the moment. Thousands of Okorans filled the stone tiers, their collective presence a chorus of murmured anticipation. At the center of the arena floor, Queen Velria waited with an air of poise that belied the tension thrumming through her. Across from her, Counselor Crom paced like a caged predator, brandishing a traditional Okoran staff that crackled with embedded energy rods. Ronan stood at the perimeter alongside Rylus, who glowered at Crom with open disdain. "He's out for blood," the guard muttered, flexing his clawed fingers. Ronan silently prayed Velria's skill, and the small healing advantage they had managed, would suffice. A horn's low blast cut through the throng's buzzing anticipation. An elder stepped forward, intoning, "By the ancient laws of Okora, the right of challenge is invoked. Let the gods of our forebears bear witness to the combat that shall decide the rightful claim to leadership and the fate of an offworlder." The elder's voice resonated powerfully, and an uneasy silence settled. Crom took the first swing, his staff whistling through the air. Velria dodged, pivoting on her newly fortified side. She responded with a swift slash from her own shorter blade, forcing Crom to retreat a step. The crowd erupted into howls and cheers at the explosive start. A swirl of dust kicked up around the two combatants as they exchanged blows, each seeking that single decisive opening. Ronan watched with bated breath. Crom was strong, perhaps physically stronger than Velria, but she was more agile, utilizing feints and quick lateral movements. Her tail flicked in practiced arcs, helping maintain her balance on the uneven ground. Yet each time she attempted a direct assault, Crom forced her back with punishing staff sweeps. After several tense exchanges, Crom managed a brutal hit to Velria's left side near her old injury. She staggered, gasping in pain. The crowd roared, uncertain whether the queen could recover. Ronan clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He could see the flash of satisfaction in Crom's eyes, a predator's glee at cornering his wounded prey. But Velria drew on reserves of resilience, shifting her stance to protect her weakened flank. She circled Crom with renewed determination, pressing him from different angles, never lingering long enough for him to exploit her vulnerability again. Their blades clashed in a dazzling display of sparks, and the crowd's volume surged with each collision. Then came the pivotal moment. Crom lunged forward, attempting to sweep Velria's legs out from under her with the staff's energy-charged tip. In a breath-stealing display of reflexes, Velria vaulted over the strike, flipping behind him. As Crom whirled in shock, Velria targeted the exact nerve cluster Ronan had helped her fortify. Her clawed hand jabbed into that cluster at just the right angle, sending a paralyzing jolt through Crom's body. He collapsed to one knee, staff falling from his grip. The arena fell silent, as if the entire crowd held a collective breath. Velria pressed a blade to his throat. Crom bared his teeth in frustration. "Yield," she commanded, her voice cold. With bitterness etched on his features, he finally hissed, "I yield." The crowd erupted, half in approval, half in uneasy acceptance. The rite of challenge concluded with Crom's defeat, ensuring Velria's rule over Okora remained intact. For now. As tradition dictated, the queen granted him mercy, though he had no choice but to relinquish his claims and publicly acknowledge her authority. The tension in the arena lingered even after the crowd dispersed. No one doubted that dissent still simmered beneath the surface. Ronan exhaled a shaky breath, relief coursing through him. Rylus clapped him on the back, a cautious display of camaraderie. "Your advice about her old wound likely saved her. I never realized nerve therapy could be so effective." But the aftermath offered little chance to celebrate. Okoran guards quickly ushered Velria and Ronan to a private chamber behind the arena, where a makeshift medical station had been set up. Alondra was already there, having readied her supplies. Velria stood tall, though her face betrayed the fatigue setting in. Small lacerations and bruises marred her fur, and that blow to her left side would undoubtedly leave a lasting bruise. She allowed Alondra to treat her injuries while turning to Ronan. "Counselor Crom may have yielded, but his faction won't stand idle. They'll seize any opportunity to undermine me and you. We must find a way to prove this conspiracy within your federation is real, and that it threatens both our worlds." With the fight over, practicalities rushed back. "The memory core in the Endurance's wreckage," Ronan replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "It contains logs of the attack and communications that might identify the conspirators. But since my crash, your people have no doubt secured the site. Crom's supporters might even be trying to destroy or alter the data to keep Okora isolated. Velria nodded, a new edge to her tone. Rylus, assemble a squad. We'll go to the wreckage ourselves. I can't trust all of Crom's men. Some might lose or conveniently misplace the evidence if left to their own devices. A short time later, a swift Okoran transport craft soared above the crimson forests, heading toward the crash site. The pilot, handpicked by Rylus, maneuvered deftly over the jagged terrain until they spotted the clearing where Ronan's ship had impacted. The area was cordoned off by a ring of Okoran soldiers armed with rifles and scanning equipment. Though none challenged the Queen's arrival, a sense of unease hung in the air. Soldiers stiffened at the sight of Ronan walking beside Velria. Whispers rippled. What else had the Queen risked by siding with a human? They disembarked, and Rylus barked orders to keep watch. Approaching the battered hull, Ronan felt a pang of loss. The Endurance had been more than a means of travel. It symbolized his mission, his hope that diplomacy could prevail over conflict. Now the ship lay twisted and half buried in shattered trees and scorched earth. A group of soldiers saluted Velria and parted so Ronan could access the data core. With a series of coded taps on the external panel, he forced open a compartment and removed a cylindrical device no larger than his forearm. A faint blue glow indicated the core was still functional. Relief surged through him as he turned to Velria. If the data log survived, we'll have everything we need to prove the sabotage. Suddenly, a distant rumble reverberated through the clearing. The nearest soldier checked a handheld scanner. My Queen, we're detecting an unidentified ship entering Okoran airspace, bearing Federation signatures. All eyes snapped skyward at once, searching for any sign of the approaching threat. Fear and suspicion rippled through the soldiers. Had the Orion Federation officially arrived? Or were these the rogue elements that tried to kill Ronan before? Velria raised a hand, signaling her squad to remain calm but vigilant. Nearby, Rylus powered up the transport craft's defensive systems, prepared to fend off any potential incursion. Ronan clutched the data core in both hands, the weight of it suddenly immense. If those are truly Federation forces, they might be here to silence me and keep this conspiracy hidden. His mind whirled with the possibilities. Perhaps the Federation had learned he survived and wanted to ensure no data reached the Council. Or it might be High Command coming to investigate. Either way, he couldn't risk them landing without clarifying their intentions. Velria recognized the urgency. We must not stay here, she said, voice as sharp as a blade's edge. If they land, we're trapped. Crom's faction would jump at the chance to blame me if a firefight breaks out with human soldiers on our soil. We have to move, decrypt the data, and expose the truth. Quickly. Rylus gathered the soldiers to escort them back to the transport craft. They departed at top speed, weaving between towering flora and rocky outcrops. For a tense hour, they crisscrossed the wild expanse of Okora, scanning the sky for pursuit. Eventually, they reached a remote highland region where an abandoned outpost stood, a place rumored to have an old communications relay they might use without drawing immediate attention. They landed in a swirl of dust, engines thrumming. At the outpost, Velria's team secured the perimeter while Ronan and Rylus set up a portable encryption console. The ancient stone walls bore traces of older Okoran script, while vines draped from crumbling balconies. Ronan inserted the data core into a specialized slot, praying it hadn't sustained too much damage. A flicker of blue light revealed a partial success. Bit by bit, lines of coded text scrolled across the console. His pulse kicked into overdrive as he recognized patterns from Federation arms shipments, energy signatures, and transmissions. Here, he murmured, pointing to a log that implicated a high-ranking official named Director Carson. Carson has oversight on Orion Federation frontier security. If these codes are valid, it looks like he orchestrated arms deals with Drathu warlords and intentionally sabotaged my mission to ensure I wouldn't expose him. Velria appeared at the console, ears flattened in grim understanding. Carson must be working with equally corrupt elements on Okora, like Crom and others who want isolation or war. This is the proof we need. If your Federation sees this, they must realize who's responsible for the subterfuge. A sudden beep on the outpost radar console warned them that the unidentified ship was closing in fast. Outside, soldiers scrambled to defensive positions. The harsh whine of descending engines split the air. Through a crack in the stone wall, Ronan glimpsed a sleek black vessel marked with Federation insignia, but not the standard color scheme of diplomatic or rescue missions. This was a stealth cruiser, the sort that Federation rarely admitted to owning. In that instant, something inside Ronan crystallized. He wasn't just a hapless envoy anymore. He was a key witness in a massive conspiracy that threatened two worlds. Shooting a glance at Velria, he saw the same fierce determination mirrored in her eyes. She had claimed him by the laws of her land, but he was bound to her by something stronger now. Trust forged in adversity. "We broadcast the data," Velria announced. "Rylus, patch me through to every secure channel on Akora and the Federation frequencies. Let all who might intervene see the truth." Though the stealth cruiser's ramp started to lower, it was too late. With the data core feeding transmissions at lightning speed, the evidence flooded every open channel. Alarms and frantic transmissions erupted within the cruiser. A volley of blaster fire hammered the outpost as the conspirators made one final attempt to destroy the files. Rubble rained down around them, but the data was already out. The entire Orion Federation, along with sympathetic Okorans, would see Director Carson's treachery laid bare. In the chaos, Velria seized Ronan's hand. "We stand together now," she said, voice unwavering despite the hail of debris. "And if anyone dares to separate us, I will show them exactly what an Akoran queen can do." He met her gaze, a wave of relief and admiration surging through him. "You saved my life, and now we've saved something bigger, a chance for honest unity between our peoples." Even as the stealth cruiser fled under mounting backlash, Rylus and Velria's loyalists rallied around the outpost. The planet's communications lit up with the raw truth, fueling a fervor that no coup or cover-up could extinguish. From that day forward, the Orion Federation and Akora stood on the precipice of a future shaped by genuine collaboration rather than underhanded deals. And at the heart of it all, a queen and her claimed human became the living testament to what could be achieved when two worlds, so different yet so similar, dared to trust each other in the face of betrayal. Hey there, fellow story lovers. If the thought of interstellar alliances, treacherous coups, and a bold queen fighting for her throne excites you, then this tale is a must. Listen, the grand finale of He Fell Into Her World, Now She'll Destroy Anyone Who Dares Take Him Away, is all about high-stakes heroics and the unlikeliest of friendships, one forged in the heat of battle. You'll witness the shocking final moments when Velria and Ronan face the ultimate test of loyalty and courage. Their enemies? A ruthless faction on Akora and a hidden threat in the Orion Federation determined to silence them at any cost. Curious about the final showdown? Be sure to listen to the entire story for all the twists and turns. And remember, your support helps us bring you fresh, exciting content. So subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Where do you think the story could go next? Let us know, and stay tuned for more thrilling adventures.